Pathmonk is the AI for website conversions. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in the buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50% by adding Pathmonk to your website in seconds, letting the AI do all the work, and increase conversions while you keep doing marketing as usual. Check us out on pathmonk.com. All right, everybody, welcome to today's episode of Pathmonk Presents. Today we are joined by Austin, is the CEO of Anja Health. Austin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, Austin, let's start with the basics. And maybe if you can give us an idea about Anja Health and what do you guys do? What's the heart of what your company does? And if you were to describe this to a friend over coffee, how would you describe what you do?
Yeah, so Anja helps pregnant parents freeze their babies' umbilical cord and placenta for future disease treatments, specifically stem cell related treatments. Both the umbilical cord and placenta are really rich in stem cells, and so it's kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity to save this part and process stem cells and then freeze it. If I was having a conversation with a friend, I'd probably ask if they ever heard of cord blood banking or stem cells in that category, and then kind of like break down in EIL5 or explain very simply what it is and what it does and why it's useful.
Okay, fair enough. So on that note, which type of customers are the best fit for this kind of service and your product in a way? And what's the key problem do you solve for them, would you say?
Yeah, so for us, you have to order our kit before you give birth, and then bring the kit to birth, right? And then the person delivering will store the umbilical cord placenta and cord blood and cord tissue in the bag, and then we would ship it off to our courier, and it goes to our lab in New Jersey. So it's for a very specific person in a very specific time. We've noticed that most of our parents make this decision in trimester 3. So like a bit of a timing and journey stage of where they start to think about this. Yeah, and I get the biggest problem that we solve is if your child or someone in your family ever needs stem cell treatment, they need to find a match for those stem cells. And so the best way to find a match is by banking your own stem cells. The company actually started because the founder's little brother had cerebral palsy and needed stem cell treatment, but couldn't find a match. And so had they done this at birth, they would have had stem cells that they had banked that they could use for those treatment options.
Those are typically, I find, the most compelling stories, the founder story where, you have a problem. It's the typical kind of story, but, when it comes to health, it just, I don't know how to describe it really, but it just touches a chord in a way, and there's a specific, very strong motivation behind making it work.
Absolutely.
That's really important, I
Yeah,
think.
as I'm sure you know, building a company is very hard. So you need to have one hell of a reason why, right? Otherwise, all the things that you go through kind of will derail you, right? So you need a very, very
Mm.
strong why. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure. So how do most people discover you? And I guess in a way, obviously, with you being the CEO now, but you were also head of growth, right? So I'm sure you touch on many of these things. Are there any marketing channels that have become your go-to for bringing in your new customers at all?
Yeah. So maybe I can share like how the company started. The company started because the founder is an influencer, and so she created a bunch of videos about this topic that went viral and ended up leading to a bunch of sales. And so, um, our sort of go-to-market wedge has been social media. We've been really good and lucky to have organic content convert for us. Most of it is education based. This is a product that is not well known to parents, and so it's one of those things where like this has been used by the upper class for a long period of time, and we've in the process of bringing it to the masses, right? Um, and so as a result, social channels work really well for us. Specifically, TikTok and Instagram have worked well. And so when I came in as head of growth last year, I saw that we had organic content working, but we weren't able to quite scale it. And so I systematically kind of went through different channels using different experiments, matching different content formulations to kind of figure out which one would work and how to repeat it, and then like eventually using some paid ads to scale that. Um, so yeah, it was an interesting position, right? We again came in like organic content was working, but wasn't quite scalable. Business wasn't growing as fast as we wanted to. So like, how do you systematically repeat and scale something was kind of the challenge there. And so yeah, it was an interesting challenge, but I think we did a pretty good job there.
That's good. I'm curious in there, how much of a role does your website play, pulling in new business. And if you could expand maybe on, do you see any specific strengths for it, or do you have your eye, or something you want to improve? How's the website right now?
Yeah, website is crucial. Everything points to our landing page or our website in that funnel. And so like super crucial. We don't have an app, and so like most of the sales and conversions are on the website. Um, what's been helpful is testing different variations of the website. So we've tested different, like showing different pricing plans. We've tested showing different content. Our product is very educational heavy, right? As you can imagine, it's also a high ticket item. So like anywhere from 3 to 10K is the cost for our kits. And so, um, to get somebody from a cold social media lead to purchasing requires a lot of information, right? So our website does a job of supplementing that. Also, like if you're coming from social media, the education pathway is fragmented, right? Like you're seeing one random video, and like so the website helps to structure the education, right? Like here's what it is, here's why I should be thinking about it. Here's science, here's case studies, here's promise, yada yada yada, testimonials, doctor recommendation, etc. So it helps to systematically order that education as well as like A/B test new things and new experiments.
Okay. Okay. I like how we're getting a little bit more technical, and I like to geek out on these things. I'm sure, our audience does too, right? So could you touch, maybe we can draw from your experience as, as a head of growth here and in general, right? Um, what actually makes a website convert, in your opinion? And yeah, there's any tools, I like to geek out on the tech stack, that's for sure. I know most people do any tactics, any kind of, tricks, if you will, that you can
Yeah,
share.
um, it's a good question. I feel like what makes anything convert is independent per company, right? And a part of the head of growth job or the marketing job is to figure out what's that unique formulation that works for you, right? So, for example, one thing that we've heard over and over again is parents love how transparent we are, both in the information and the pricing. So some of our competitors' websites, you have to like do a call and then get the pricing. For us, it's like right there in front of you with exactly how much it is, how long you're paying with, again, everything transparent. We've heard over and over again that it's just like we feel more accessible as a company, which definitely does play into the brand, right? So for us, like having pricing there definitely helps. Some tools like Hotjar has been really useful for us. Like actually being able to watch the recordings and seeing what happens, and we can kind of see the click off and the drop off, and like it's helpful to see if we send somebody to the order page, for example, do they click back? And then when they click back, where do they go? Do they see the science? Do they read the science part? What part of the science part is important, right? Do they read a blog? Do they double click into this part, right? Do they look at these testimonials? All those things are super helpful to kind of understand exactly where a customer is going. Um, I will say the reason why I going back to I think every company's conversion is unique is like we tried testing a funnel where that modeled a like a Instagram or one of those like course videos or courses, because that's the other high ticket item that's selling on social media, right? And so what that means is like we took them from Instagram lead to like a page with a video explaining things and then taking them there, and like that converted less efficiently than just sending them to the shop page, right?
Mm,
So like that was an interesting find because intuitively, like going from cold to purchase should not happen, right? But it works for us for some reason, right? And so like that's why I say like independent, because for some other company that might not work, right?
right.
But for us, that when we ran the A/B test, that showed significant results over the other one. So, um, yeah, that was a very interesting find, right? But something that you only really do by doing it, because if you had read literature or like insights or intuition from the market, like they would told you like that doesn't work, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not something you do. And if you were to replicate that down to a T and try it for another type of business vertical website,
May or
it's
may
not
not work.
guaranteed to work, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the name of the game is to figure out how to experiment with a bunch of things and get to a conclusion like as fast as possible, right? So that way you can build the unique formulation for your business.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point for sure. Let's switch gears for a second here, Austin. I want to talk about you. I congratulated you offline for the for the CEO promotion, and that's great. So I want to hear it from you in the sense that what's that transition been like, and what do you focus on a day to day? As much changed in that sense, and Yeah, if you could just give us a glimpse into your typical workday as a head of growth, as it was, and right now, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, essentially it was just diving really deep into problems, figuring out a solution that's scalable or process or whatever it is, and then moving on, right? And that hasn't changed. Like that principle has not changed, right? When I was head of growth, when I was head of growth, it was much more marketing specific, and now it's just like company operations and future vision specific, right? Um, we have a really good team. Like team is super solid, so a lot of things are handled by them, and like they work autonomously and have a great sense of ownership and responsibility, and so like um, yeah, it makes my job a little easier on a day to day. But uh, my biggest focus has been trying to figure out a roadmap for, 1, 5, 10 years from now.
Mm,
And so like, how do we expand other stem cell collection options? How do we eventually expand into the usage of stem cells where I want to get into treatments and therapy? I think that's the next step is like the mission. Our mission is to make stem cell treatments accessible to everybody, right? And the first part of that was actual collection and access to stem cells, which I think we've done with the cord blood banking kit. Now the second part is going to be like the actual usage and treatment and therapies of it. And so that's where my head is at, is figuring out like what the roadmap looks like there and like how I can best leverage the assets that we have to make in our role and see at the table in this space, right? There are a lot of really smart people there. So I'm trying to figure out where we can fit in best.
of course, of course. Do you ever get because obviously you went from a very operational role to
Hmm.
something that's more strategic, so now you're, having that 30,000 foot view of, the business, the vision and everything. Do you ever get that itch to, to be a little bit more operational now that you're more strategic or not?
Yeah, 100%. But I feel like they like go ebbs and flows. They oscillate, right? Like there is a 30,000 foot view, but then like once that's completed and I know where to go, then we have to go and do it, right? And like I
Mm,
like doing both. I actually feel like that is a very important part of the process. There's both like the artistic vision, but the craftsmanship, right? In creating an art piece. And so to me, balancing both and doing both are super important because like if you don't, I think they kind of go hand in hand, right? Like you need the vision to know what to execute, but you also need to be able to execute to know how to execute the vision, right? And if those are broken, like you have a distorted view of how things are actually done. So in
okay.
my opinion, like the fun is actually doing it, right? Just saying something and like putting it on paper, like it's okay. But like actually doing it and getting your hands dirty and being in the nitty gritty, like that to me is where the fun is. So yeah.
Yeah, just saying that it works, or even if it fails,
Yes.
you tried, right?
It doesn't
But
work.
yeah, that's
Exactly. Yes. But then if
yeah,
it doesn't work, I know why, right? Because the important part I think is to know why something worked, why something didn't work. Otherwise, you can't learn from it and you can't grow, right? So to me, like being able to reflect and understand why something happened the way it did, like is super valuable, right? But just to have the
yeah,
data is a little detached, in my opinion. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's a fair point. You just touched on something actually. Talking about learning for a second, there is a flood of content out there, right? How do you stay focused and keep learning? Do you turn to anything specific, a routine or specific people even for staying ahead? Let's say.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what stage you're at. So like when I joined as head of growth, I haven't, to be frank, didn't run ads on the scale that we had done before, right? And so like even just learning how to use a meta platform was new to me. And at the time we had a like consulting or coaching firm that would help us with these and had playbooks for us that we trusted, right? So that made it really easy because there's a ton of information out there about how to run ads and like a lot of them are polarizing opinions. And so like to have one central source of truth that we trusted was really helpful. And then from there, it was just about like putting the mechanisms in place to learn as fast as possible from our own, right? So I feel like there's a fair amount of content you can get from the outside world, and then after that, you have to just like figure it out yourself, in my opinion, right? And so I think like learn the
Mm,
fundamentals from content, and then like figure it out yourself. So like that helped. And then for now, example, transitioning into like learning about the stem cell space, I just try and like get as much information as I possibly can about stem cells, right? So I'm either reading books or like when I go for a run, I'm listening to podcasts, right? As much as I possibly can. And then like once I feel like I have a good first principles understanding, then I'll try and be a little more niche, right? I've also been using like ChatGPT deep research, specifically the deep research function is incredible at this, right? It pulls sources and like really, really good at being very like directionally pointed at what we're doing. So like that's something that's super helpful. Yeah, it's a combination of podcasts and content and also just talking to people. Like we have a good network. So like I talk to people and
mm.
questions, go out to dinners and just, talk shop and see what's up. So that's been really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it sounds like a good mix, of you just bake it into your routines, right? It's the podcast, it's the conversation, you're going to dinner, you just obviously you're always thinking.
Mhm.
Um so might as well, talk about the things that interest you and the things that are useful for your, for your career, for your job, right? So
Absolutely. And it does help that I just find it so fascinating. It's so exciting to learn. Anything deeply technical to me has always been fascinating. So like I'm happy. I like to do this on my free time. Like I'll be eating dinner, watching a YouTube video about stem cells.
right.
Like it's
It's
so incredibly fascinating to me.
a bit of,
And
of an
I think so.
obsession, right?
Yes, yeah, a little bit of an
Right,
obsession,
right.
right? But it has to be, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so to me, it's just like something that I think again is so fascinating and important to our human race that like it's yeah, makes it a little easier.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Now, Austin, we're coming towards the end of our time here, and I wanna just launch into our rapid fire question
Yep, go
segment,
for
if you don't mind. I think you know the rules, but it's as easy as short question, short answer, right? That's
Yep,
what we're
let's
looking
do it.
for. All right, sweet. Let's do it. So, do you prefer watching, reading, or listening?
Oh, honestly, all of the above, depending on what I'm doing, right? Like I like to read first thing in the morning. I like to listen if I'm doing something else, like running or doing the chores, right? And then watching
Okay.
if like late night, my brain is a little slower, I can kind of sit down and process.
Mm, okay. Let me open this up then to what's the latest piece of content? It could be any of the three, right? That you picked up, and were there any ideas or gems that really stuck with you?
Mm, last piece of content was a podcast about these innovative stem cell therapies for autism. Um, I can't pinpoint something super specific that I picked up. Um, but they were talking about the journey of going from like an idea to clinical stage and to like commercialization. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. So, if you had a magic wand and could fix one frustrating thing in your marketing life with tech, it could be marketing, obviously, it could be operations right now, but growth, whatever, right? What would it be?
Ah, very precise tracking of where the lead came from. So, like, let's say for example, we track how much purchase conversions happen on Facebook, but let's say someone goes on Facebook, sees our ad, then opens Google, goes there. Now both of them are saying that the lead came from them. So it's not
Mm,
precise.
okay.
Yeah. This is a well-known
Okay.
problem with like yeah, within this industry. So, but very hard to solve. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's a repetitive task that you could put on autopilot forever, what would you pick?
Honestly, none. Like my philosophy is that if I do something more than once, then it's either time to scale it or delegate it, and like then I should be focusing on newer and harder problems. So this is a
Okay.
rinse and repeat cycle for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Now, if you could go back and give your past self a quick pep talk at the start of your journey, what kind of advice would you drop?
I know it sounds vague, but the best advice I've ever gotten was like, you just got to figure it out. And like when I first heard that, I was kind of like, dude, come on, man. Like this is what kind of advice is this? But then as I got more into it, it's like really the only thing there is, right? Is you just figure it out. Whatever it is, you just got to figure it out. Take one very small step at a time, and then eventually, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I know I understand that frustration where it's like, okay, but could you tell me what to do? At
Yeah,
least,
exactly.
something.
I'm like,
But
dude, what do
no,
you mean? Just figure it out.
yeah,
But then like you kind of you figure it out once, twice, and you're like, okay, I understand why. Because like again, everyone's journey is unique, right? And so the best thing to tell somebody is like just keep your head down, one foot in front of the other, figure it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good one. Austin, I want to thank you for being on the show with us today. I also want to give you the last word. So, if someone forgets everything about the interview today, which I doubt, by the way, what is the one thing that you should remember about your company?
We're the stem cell startup. That's what I hope they remember. Yep.
Okay, perfect. And if anyone needs, wants to check you guys out, where should they go? What are the channels that you prefer?
Yeah, just go to our website, anjahealth.com, ANJA health.com, and you'll be taken care of from there.
All right, amazing. Awesome. Thank you again for being with us today. And,
course.
maybe we can do it sometime soon before the year ends or,
Yeah, definitely.
at some
Would always
point
be
in the
down.
future.
Good meeting
All
you,
right.
and thank you for
Amazing.
this.
All right. Bye, everyone.